House tonight. Appreciate you being here. We're delighted that you're here. Welcome. Madam Clerk, all commissioners are present, along with our county attorney. And I don't see Miss Margaret tonight. Did you give her the night off, Mr. Manager?
Continuing education college.
Okay, well, that's good. We'll keep her educated then. I will remind you to silence all your mobile devices. If you've got things going to make a noise, please take care of that right now so that we get a good recording and no interruptions tonight. I'll remind our speakers as you come to the podium tonight, please be sure to press the button on the right and be sure the red light comes on so that we can hear you and also get a good YouTube recording tonight as well. We're glad to have with us tonight Dr. Luke Lane, Senior Pastor of Burkemont Baptist Church. He'll be giving our invocation for us tonight, and following our invocation, I'll ask you to remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and some special recognitions after the pledge of our East Burke Royals and Oak Hill Bulldogs, boys 9 and 10 basketball teams and their coaches. So at this time, let's stand together and we'll have our invocation and pledge to the flag.
Lord Jesus, we're so grateful to be able to be here this evening. We're thankful for these ones that you have placed in this position of leadership according to Daniel 2. And our calling as followers of you in 1 Timothy 2 is to pray for them. And so we do. We pray now for them. We pray for their decision making. We pray that they would seek you and your wisdom. And Lord, you would provide them the wisdom that they need to make the decisions for our county. Lord, may you bless them. And may you remind them, as well as us in Romans 13, that they are your servants to us in this community. Thank you for Burke County. Thank you for what this county does. Thank you for all of these folks who are here this evening. And Lord, may you be honored by what is done tonight. And we ask all these things in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Guys, come lead us in the pledge. Come on up. Sounds good. You guys stay right here. We're going to come down and get a picture with you right quick, and then we're going to hear from your coaches, okay?
Might have to get back in a little further.
All right, I want to recognize Wes Hassan with our Parks and Recreation. Wes is going to introduce these guys, and so Wes, you come ahead.
All right, guys. Well, while I have the opportunity, before we get into this, let me thank the County Commission for having us tonight. Again, County Manager, Ms. Kay Drawn, thank you for all your work and helping us put this together. From the Recreation Department, thank you, Dina Gates and Treg McGee. Thank y'all for being here and all the work that y'all did helping us put this together. Dina worked really hard on these awards. Also, to each athletic foundation, East Burke and Oak Hill, all of you coaches, players, officials, parents, and family that came out to see tonight's presentation. We have about 150 youth basketball teams countywide in this league. So we have a lot of coaches every weekend that show good sportsmanship. One particular example of that came a couple of weeks ago in a 9 and 10-year-old basketball game between East Burke Royals and Oak Hill Bulldogs at Oak Hill. And for anybody that knows anything about sports in Burke County and youth sports in Burke County, you'll know that Oak Hill and East Burke have just a little bit of a rivalry. So they could get competitive, and of course they both like to win. But Oak Hill has a young man by the name of Taji, and he has autism. When the East Burke coaches found out about that, they set up 2 plays for Taji to take a shot, and he took his shots. He made 1 shot, and Oak Hill won the game by 2 points. So they put sportsmanship over winning, and we do have a video clip of that. We're going to run the video now, and then we'll have a presentation right after that. All right, so by that video, you can see the impact that play had on everybody in the gym that day. And also, it reached further than that. That went on social media. It basically went viral. It got thousands of likes and shares and comments. So you can see just how much of an impact you can make as a youth sports coach, and how much youth sports matters and how much of a difference it can make in a kid's lives and adults, coaches, and people that we don't even know around the country that are seeing this video now. So with that said, if I can get the coaches from both teams to come up, as well as the 2 officials that officiated that day, we're going to make a special presentation. And East Burke coaches did not ask for any attention for this. It was just that inspiring that we wanted to do this recognition, and it moved Oak Hill that much. So we're going to start with the East Burke coaches, head coach Cody Brown. Congratulations. Assistant coach Devin Lingerfeld. Oak Hill coach Natalie Beam. Oak Hill coach Kelvin Beam. Official Shatney Jones. And official Pam Phillips. And so I would just like to thank all of y'all coaches and officials who do the best they can at being instructional and trying to help as much as they can in these games. It's tough being an official. Thank you for what y'all do. and the difference that y'all are making in our community and with the kids in our communities. And with that said, I'm going to bring the two Athletic Foundation heads up, and Amber Long from Oak Hill Athletic Foundation is going to do a special recognition for East Burke.
Okay, so just so y'all are informed, the video post, I just checked it before I come in here. It's got 292K views. It's
Was
been
that a
shared.
granny shot?
It was a granny shot.
Beautiful.
But we'll take it. I will say this, it wasn't just the coaches, but these two refs, which I've had them many times at Oak Hill, they cheered him on even afterwards. And even this past weekend, Taji didn't want to play. Pam went to him a couple times, and he got out there for a minute, but with his disability, it's up to him what he wants to do. So we just really are thankful for y'all. We are taking the team and the coaches with us to an App State game this weekend. And so we're excited about that. And I think that if more youth sports build off this type of momentum, when I text West, it's normally not good. And so when I text him this time, I said, you have to see this video. And within that, it just went, I literally was at my other child's basketball game, and I was like, my phone's going crazy. What is going on? And it just continued. And then once it hit, we're like, oh gosh. And so then everybody shared it. And Taji is special. We love him. He's told me he's going to get pizza tonight. And then he said Zaxby's. But he gets out there when he wants to, and he does the best that he can, and we love him. We're thankful for y'all. Y'all were great, and the coaches. I mean, when they found out, they immediately called a timeout and put those two plays together with their team, and that was huge for us. I don't think there was a dry eye in that gym, and all I was screaming was, who's got a video? But thank y'all. We're looking forward to this weekend with y'all. Thank y'all for having us. And thank our coaches as always. We love y'all dearly, but it's been very nice to do this with y'all.
Thank you. Thank you, Amber. I'm just going to get a picture with you guys with your awards. All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay, guys, thank you, everybody.
Chairman, I say we go home. We can get some downhill.
All right. Thank you very much, and on behalf of the board, I can't express how proud we are of both these teams and all that transpired here. Such an inspiration to see great sportsmanship right here in our own community. So thank you for being here tonight, sharing that celebration with us as well. All right, with that, we'll move on. I failed to notice earlier, happy to see Representative Hugh Blackwell in the audience tonight. Representative Blackwell, thank you for being here tonight. All right, with that, gentlemen, brings us to item number 4, approval of agenda. We have just a slight addition we'd like to add tonight, item for decision number 5, a resolution authorizing private sale to a nonprofit, and then moving item number 2 to presentation to item number 1 to give our cheerleaders an opportunity to get home, do some homework a little earlier if they so desire. So with that, gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended, including the addition of consent item number 14, resolution authorizing private sale to a nonprofit, and moving the recognition of the East Burke High School cheer team from presentation item number 2 to presentation item number 1.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Tonight we have approval of some minutes, gentlemen. We have minutes from November 3rd, 2025 pre-agenda meeting, November 17th, 2025 special quasi-judicial meeting, November 17th, 2025 our regular meeting, and December 1, 2025 our pre-agenda meeting. Gentlemen, I would entertain a motion to accept those minutes unless there's some addition or change.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the November 3rd, 2025 pre-agenda, November 17th, 2025 special quasi-judicial, November 17th, 2025 regular, and December 1st, 2025 pre-agenda meetings as written.
Thank you, Commissioner Barry. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right, we do have several items for presentation tonight. We have, having moved item number 2 to item number 1, recognition of the East Burke High School cheer team. And I want to recognize Coach Sabrina Baker and the East Burke varsity cheer team for their state championship win tonight. You guys come on up, and we want to present an award and take a photo with you guys. And I'll ask the coach if you'd like to make a comment just before we do all that, Coach.
Okay, there it goes. First off, thank you guys for having us. It is such an honor to get to be here. When Miss Kay emailed me, I was just super excited to bring them here and to celebrate this huge accomplishment. So our cheerleaders are bringing home a NCHSAA state title, and this is the first in program history as well as school history for East Burke High School. So this is a historic team, historic group of girls, and we are just so very proud of them and this accomplishment they've achieved.
Calm down, Ryan.
Congratulations.
All right, again, we congratulate this group on a great job. Keep up the good work. Thank you for being here with us tonight. All right, Anthony, you've got a chore now, pal. All the fun stuff has happened, and now we're going to hear from our Western Piedmont Council of Government, Anthony Starr, Executive Director. He's going to give us an update on the interbasin transfer request. Thank you for being here tonight, Anthony.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thanks for having me. That's tough to follow, to go into such a light and joyous couple of recognitions there, and I'm going to dig into this really serious stuff now. So I'll try to transition best I can into that, but thanks for the opportunity to come and present this important update to you about interbasin transfers in the Catawba River. So let me just dive right in. I'm going to talk a little bit about the background of interbasin transfers, about the Catawba River Basin, Charlotte Water's request, some alternatives available to Charlotte, a little bit about the Catawba River Coalition, and legislative study, and take your questions as well. So let me start by first, for the benefit of the public, when we're talking about interbasin transfers, what do we mean? Or sometimes we call them IBTs. And basically what that means is, if you look at the diagram on the screen there, you'll see the river on the left. In our scenario, that might be the Catawba River. And a local utility pulls water out of the Catawba River, moves the water across a ridge line, and then doesn't return a certain portion of that water. The part of the water that does not return is counted as the IBT. Water that gets returned, pumped back across the ridge line through the wastewater treatment process, that is not counted as an interbasin transfer. It's the water that is transferred across that ridge line and doesn't return. So what do the experts say about IBTs? Well, our team looked at a number of different resources, academic resources, professional resources, and basically it all says there are economic and environmental impacts that are negative to the source river basin, such as us in the Catawba River. About the Catawba River IBTs, so the landscape is that currently Charlotte Water has a certificate for 33 million gallons per day that was issued in 2002. Concord Kannapolis has a 20 million gallon per day certificate, 10 million of that coming from the Catawba River. You may remember that's the one where there was a huge fight about 15 so years ago, and they originally asked for about 30 million gallons per day, and it got reduced to 10 million gallons per day in the process. And then the town of Mooresville has a pre-existing interbasin transfer allowance of about 9.5 million gallons per day. So when you talk about the interbasins transfers and the way the state regulates this is a map from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. The colors show the main river basins, the major river basins in North Carolina. The Catawba River is that area in green. You can see we're actually one of the smaller river basins in the state. The red lines are also some sub-basin designations that they use for regulatory purposes as well. So about the Catawba River Basin, it's the first river in the United States completely planned and developed for electrical production. There are 11 different reservoirs, about 1,800 miles of shoreline. We've got about 3.8 billion gallons of water flowing each day, and storage of about 7% of our annual rainfall. And that's an important figure because we only have storage for about 7% of our annual rainfall. And so that really comes into play during severe droughts. The river basin is the most densely populated river basin in North Carolina, the Catawba River is. It covers 2 different states, lots of people served, lots of visitors, lots of industrial uses, 18 different public water systems serving 2 million people. At the end of the day, and what is really crucial to part of this, is the Catawba River is a threatened river. In fact, twice over the last 15 or 20 years, the Catawba River has been named as America's most endangered river in the United States. And that was mostly due to the unprecedented demand for clean water with the exponential growth in the Charlotte metro area. And that really comes into play with drought conditions. And so this is a chart that our team put together, and it's from the U.S. Drought Monitor, and it shows all the droughts in North Carolina from the late 1998 until last year. And the way to read this chart is this. So the higher the bar is on the chart, the greater percentage of North Carolina was in that particular drought. The darker the color, the more severe the drought is. So you can see we had 2 severe exceptional droughts from 98 to 2002 and from 2007 to 2009. Now, why does that come into play? And it comes directly into play with our utility systems. This is a diagram we created. You can see a water treatment plant up on the right. You see the pump station there, and the intake there at the lower in the center. The blue line represents the normal elevation of our lakes. And then the red line represents the critical reservoir elevation. And that is the elevation that we must maintain and for our public water systems, for our drinking water and other uses to remain operational. If the water level goes below that level, then we're not able to pump water and produce water for the public. So in the 98 to 2002 drought, that was, in some locations in North Carolina were among the largest documented precipitation deficits since the beginning of collecting data. And so the Western North Carolina, the way to read this map on here is this is a map showing stream and river flows. And the pink color is the area that was hit hardest during that time where the flows decreased the most. And so you can see basically the Western Piedmont area was hit particularly hard with that drought. During the 07-09 drought, we were trying to reduce water consumption by more than 20%. Our lake levels dropped by 8 to 10 feet. We had Lake Norman dropped to just 3.1 feet above the cooling intake for the nuclear power plant. That's kind of important. Meanwhile, at the same time, Charlotte is pulling water out of the Catawba River, and it loses about 19% of every gallon it takes each day, which equates to 23 million gallons lost each day. So Charlotte might say, well, this is just normal business. IBTs, that's what we got to do. It's not that big a deal. And small IBTs are necessary, but these larger ones represent a problem. And they might say that this isn't a big issue. But consider this. Charlotte publishes water conservation goals for extreme droughts to conserve 10 to 20% of its water. It uses about 125 million gallons per day. That equates to about 12.5 to 25 million gallons per day that they hope to conserve during extreme droughts. Now, the potential Charlotte water IBT is 63 million gallons per day. That means they're proposing to transfer 2.5 to 5 times more water than they hope to conserve during extreme droughts. So either Charlotte Water's conservation goals for droughts are inadequate, or this IBT that they're proposing is significant. So about their request. So they as I mentioned, they currently transfer up to 33 million gallons per day. They're approaching that limit. They have indicated they may go to up to 63 million gallons per day. On the map there you'll see that's a map provided by Charlotte Water. The red dots represent the water intakes on Mountain Island Lake and Lake Norman. The blue squares represent the water treatment facilities. And the purple line on the right side represents the ridge line and where they're transferring the water across the ridge line to serve the eastern third of Mecklenburg County. With a 30 million gallon per day increase, that will serve about 300,000 more people. So that means they're projecting to add about 300,000 more people in eastern Mecklenburg County. Now keep in mind, our entire 4-county region has a population of 375,000 people. Now, it has economic impacts as well. Charlotte's request would harm communities in the Catawba River Basin. The population is growing on the east side of Charlotte significantly. The map shows some of the growth rates there and how it's going to have a negative impact on all of us, and you're transferring a precious resource to serve someone else. So it also looked at what does this mean for us in the future. There's a group called the Catawba Water Management Group that was formed a number of years ago to manage and coordinate the use of the Catawba River. And all of our utility systems are members of this group, including the municipalities in Burke County that serve water. And they put together a water supply plan in 2014. They're in the process of updating that now. But during that plan, it said that by 2050, the safe yield for many of our reservoirs or lakes in the Catawba River would be exhausted. And that's due to the continued population and economic growth, and that would make that unsustainable. And so we're not against Charlotte growing, we just don't want it to occur at our expense. And so I would imagine that we may reach that limit sooner because the projections for population growth in that study have been outpaced by Charlotte since then. At the same time, we've went back and looked at the water levels for the Catawba River, and our engineering team looked at this, and what it shows here is going back to the 1960s to now, the amount of water available in the Catawba River is actually decreasing, the data says. So not only are we transferring more water out, we don't even have the same amount of water available as we're doing it. So that is going to compound our problem. Add more, you have less water, that means you have more concentrations of pollutants in it, which increases the treatment cost for our utilities, which makes everyone's water bills go up as well when you have less water available. At the same time, Charlotte's water rates are more affordable as a percentage of median household income than 90% of all other utilities in North Carolina. They pay less for the same amount of water, but at the same time, they're losing 19% of their water through water loss in their system. The chart here shows the affordability on the scale. The black dot represents the median affordability in North Carolina. The blue dot represents the utilities in our region, which do pretty well in terms of water affordability to homeowners and businesses. And the orange dot represents Charlotte Water all the way on the left there. The bottom line is that the interbasin transfer means cheaper water for Charlotte and more expensive water for the other communities in the Catawba River Basin. So they want to transfer more water out and take the cheaper out while also having the cheapest rates. So we're also concerned about the legal impacts of this and the precedents that it has, and continuing to approve these. It's just going to make it harder and harder to get a handle on this and stop this. So that's why we're really concerned about it. So what are the alternatives to Charlotte? Well, there are a couple of key alternatives. One is that they can take water from the Yadkin River Basin, either by constructing their own water treatment plant or purchasing water from an existing utility, or they can return water back to the Catawba River when they transfer it across the river basin, but then pump it back across for wastewater treatment and discharge that wastewater, treated water, back into a stream that flows into the Catawba River. As you mentioned, earlier, when it's brought back across the ridgeline, that doesn't count as an IBT. So both of those are options they can take to reduce or eliminate their IBT. They knew this, they've known it for a long time. Back in 2001, when they applied for their original certificate, they looked at these options, and the options then were, according to Charlotte, were either 16 million or 82 million for those options. Now, according to Charlotte, and we're not saying we accept these estimates as true, but for argument's sake for the moment, let's assume that they're accurate. They're saying now that both of those options each option would cost over $800 million each. And that seems like a really big number, and it is, but it's also 10 to 50 times increase over a 20-year period for that infrastructure. And yes, it's a big number, but you have to consider that Charlotte Water's budget, not the city of Charlotte, but just the water department's budget, is $651 million per year. They plan to spend $2.3 billion in projects over the next 5 years. So when you put all that in context, you realize that avoiding this IBT would only require about a 12% increase in the Charlotte Water capital budget over the next 15 years. That's doable, it's realistic. And remember, their water rates are among the lowest. So we're not asking them to become uncompetitive with their water rates. We're just asking them to do the right thing, but it's not quite the cheapest thing. So Charlotte Water has not invested in alternative water projects in this century. They have backed a 1-cent sales tax for transportation infrastructure. They've received $141 million in pandemic funding that could be used for water and sewer, but they didn't use it for water and sewer. They used it for other purposes. So the bottom line is Charlotte pays less for water. They received federal funds for water infrastructure, but didn't use it for that purpose. Supported a tax increase for other non-water infrastructure. So they have the means, not just the desire, to pursue alternatives for water. So the COG is serving as the coordinating agency at the request of our local governments in our region, that's Alexander, Caldwell, Burke, and Catawba counties, plus McDowell County and all the municipalities in those 5 counties. And so part of the process, the next step would be the Environmental Management Commission, which is a body appointed by state leaders that approve these requests. They would hold a public hearing after Charlotte produces its environmental impact statement. We think that'll be sometime in 2027. And at that point, we'll know some more details, but Charlotte hasn't been super transparent, not very transparent at all, with details about what they're considering and what their intentions are. So our concerns are, and these are some of the key points, is our region's future growth could be limited because of these large IBTs. At some point, we're going to transfer so much water out, and with us reaching that safe yield, a federal or state agency might say to Morganton or Valdez or Burke County or whatever water producer, we're not going to let you withdraw more water out of the Catawba River because too much water is already being taken from it. And the more we transfer with these IBTs, the faster we will reach that limit in the future. Now, we're not opposed to Charlotte growing. We just don't want that growth to occur at our expense. And the limited resources of the Catawba River should not be used to subsidize significant growth outside of the river basin. And they can and should implement policies and infrastructure improvements to avoid IBTs. And these IBTs are going to make the impacts of these severe droughts worse for other communities along the Catawba River. And frankly, according to the data, it looks like we're overdue for a pretty significant drought. Now, last year, the General Assembly passed legislation, thanks to Representative Blackwell and Senator Daniel, amongst others, that placed a moratorium on large interbasin transfers of 15 million gallons per day or more, that either new ones or expansions. And so that bought us some time. It directed the North Carolina Collaboratory at UNC Chapel Hill to study the issue and provide recommendations to the General Assembly in January of 27. The moratorium is in effect until March of 2027. So there's going to be a window there where the study comes out with recommendations, and the General Assembly will have an opportunity to act and provide more reasonable requirements on these IBTs. This isn't an issue local to our area. There's also the same issue cropping up in other parts of the state right now with Fuquay-Varina and the Cape Fear River and Wilmington. There's also a big controversy about that IBT as we speak right now. So the legislative study requires that the collaboratory study the current statutory process for IBTs and provide recommendations. It also has some other details there about environmental impact statements and land use and so forth, and see what kind of recommendations it comes forth. We've provided a number of recommendations to this, working with the stakeholders, being all of you, our counties and our municipalities, on this issue. But two key things we're communicating that we need, and we suggest, is use basketball vernacular, since we have the team here tonight, a shot clock on these large IBTs. To say, you might have a temporary growth spurt and you need a large IBT, but you're going to be time limited to, say, 15 or 20 years. And that will give you time to build the infrastructure or save the money to build the infrastructure that you need to avoid the IBT. So it's a temporary measure. An IBT should be a temporary measure, not a permanent solution. And then also a drought mitigation fund for impacted communities should be made available by Charlotte or entities like that for us to use to make our utility systems more drought resilient. What would that look like? Well, it might mean a couple of things. It might mean placing a new intake or a lower intake in the Catawba River that's deeper to give us more usable storage on a particular lake, or it might be interconnections between utility systems where one is experiencing worse conditions than another. At the end of the day, we're all interconnected with our water. And you say, we're upstream, why does this matter? Well, Duke Energy manages the lake. It moves the water down the system to meet all the needs. And so the water supply upstream is affected by the use downstream. And Lake James, when we look at the data and look how it was affected during drought, it's our Alamo for the entire river system. It's the largest lake in the system. It has the most storage. And if the drought had went, that 07-09 drought had went longer, then we were going to really deplete even the storage in Lake James, because it was propping up the storage in the rest of the system at that point in time. So what can we do as coalition members? We ask that our local governments respectfully engage your state legislators using these key points, and we'll provide additional points and data to support your advocacy. We'll ask that you engage the UNC Collaboratory to share your local perspective. We'll be sending information to your manager about that, about what you can do, probably a letter, what we will be asking you to do to send about that in your voice. But it's not an exaggeration to say that the next 50 years of growth in our region will be determined by this issue, because if we don't have water, then we won't have opportunity. And this is going to determine the future for our children and grandchildren in the future, and we want to keep this in the forefront of everyone's minds. So thanks for letting me give you an update. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Anthony. Great update. Gentlemen, any questions for Anthony on this subject?
Anthony, just quickly, are there any IBTs that come to Catawba River Chain, or are they all out?
I'm not aware of any off the top of my head. There may be one, but if it is, it's not large.
Yeah, and someone in a comment I had about this several months back said, well, they're taking it out of Lake Norman. What does that matter to us? We're upstream. So I'm glad you made the point about Lake James being our primary reservoir. And I think one point that's probably lost in all this is in any kind of critical incident, triage occurs. And if you look at the population centers and where the density is and making decisions that affect the fewest people in an emergency, we're going to lose that. And we need to stop this.
And thank you for your leadership in this issue. As you all know, Commissioner Burns serves as my board chair now, and we're glad to have his leadership on this issue and at the COG. So thank you, Commissioner Burns.
Other questions?
Yes, sir. Now, I understand that the legislature allowed them to go ahead and get a toe in the door with getting 15 million gallons of water a day on a 2-year moratorium. So how has that affected us so far? Are they going to come back and say, that hasn't affected you at all? Now give us 15 million more gallons.
So they haven't increased anything since the moratorium. Charlotte hasn't moved forward with its request since the moratorium was put in place last year. And so we're hopeful that the recommendations will be favorable that come out of the collaboratory, and we can put some reasonable guardrails on this issue so that we're not at risk of depleting this precious resource for our entire river basin. But we appreciate the leadership. The General Assembly is recognizing that there's a problem now, but this isn't a new problem. It's been developing literally over decades. But I think we're getting to a point now where we're going to start seeing some serious negative outcomes in the years ahead unless we take proactive action on it.
Other questions?
This is a classic case of failure to plan on your part should not constitute an emergency on ours. They've had time, and I'll stop.
Mr. Chairman, what kind of stance? I mean, this seems like this, like I said, the 50-year, this is going to be ongoing. And we got Burke River Trails, we got all kind of development we get ready to do here in our region, and you know how I feel about that. You know, the water is going to be, you know, how are we going to manage that? I mean, how are we going to, that's going to be some heavy hitters, attorneys fighting over that situation. But we got to have a collective, innovative ways how to do this for the whole system, I know, but, you know, everybody's being served by that, but this is going to be something.
I think it could get quite involved if North Carolina, the EMC ends up approving this IVT. We could see what happened in the past, and South Carolina could sue North Carolina over this. And if you remember your constitutional law, when that happens, when one state sues another, the Supreme Court has original jurisdiction. And so there could be a lot of litigation that occurs even after the EMC were to approve it and tie this up. But you know, frankly, spend a lot of resources with a battle that we don't need to have with another state if that happens.
Absolutely. One more thing, you know, Charlotte seems like they're unwilling on this thing. They're not slowing down on growth. We're a top state. You know, all the people are coming here. They're coming. They're not slowing down. They're building as fast as they can. So that's just water clicking, clicking, clicking like they ain't stopping, ain't planning. Somebody's going to have to figure this out in a big way. Maybe ChatGPT's got the answer.
Well, there are solutions. Like I said, there's a couple alternatives that we pointed out, that they've pointed out, that can avoid this issue, and they can still keep growing if that's what they want for their community.
Hey, so what is that point that we need to push to
So
them?
they can be, if they're required to, they can withdraw water out of the Yadkin River, which is a larger river basin. It doesn't have lakes, a lot of lakes on it, but it is a larger river basin with more supply, if you will. They can withdraw water there to serve the eastern third of Mecklenburg County, or they can establish the wastewater infrastructure to treat it and pump it back across the ridge line. That's more expensive to them, and return the water back to the Catawba River Basin. Either one of those options will satisfy our concerns, I think.
Okay, that's what we got to do then.
Mr. Stark, who appoints the members of the EMC?
Those are appointed. I can't tell you the breakdown exactly. I believe it's a combination of the governor and leadership in the General Assembly.
So we have some influence through the General Assembly.
Yes, and We did gain some representation on that recently, so we have at least one member from our region on the commission now.
Okay. Is there somewhere we can find out where that is? And
I'll be glad to
communicate?
follow up and send you that link, but
Who
there
those
is a
are?
website on the, if you Google their Environmental Management Commission, there's a website they have that has information about their meetings and including their membership on the commission.
Okay, yeah, I just think it might be helpful. I think our legislatures, and Mr. Black was here, are on board with us, obviously. But maybe we need to be writing letters to those board members about the importance of that in our area.
Yes, and if we can get balanced representation on the EMC, that would be a good outcome for us. We were looking at boards and commissions across the North Carolina. This is one of the things that COG was looking at a few months ago, Chairman Burns was looking at. And our region is underrepresented in general on a lot of state boards and commissions, and I think that's something we're working on with our local leaders to try to get that improved, and the EMC is one of those things where we could always try to improve our standing.
Other questions? All right, Anthony, thank you again for being here with us tonight. Thank you for the work
Thank you.
COG's doing to represent our region, and just keep up the good work.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Gentlemen, I entertain a motion to accept this report as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right, brings us to item number 3 on presentations. This comes from Valdez Economic Development Investment Corporation. Annual update. This will be presented tonight by their Executive Director, Carrie Petit, and Talisha Goosens. Did I get close? Close. Okay, I'll take it close. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Can you hear me now? It's great to be here this afternoon and give an annual update. It has been a little while since we have been here, so thank you for the opportunity to come and share a little bit about what VEDIC is about and what we are doing and what we have been doing this past year. So we are currently located in the Old Rock School, and we have been there a little over a year now, and we have really enjoyed the space and really enjoy being there in the new office. A little bit about our mission. VEDIC works to promote a thriving North Carolina economy through partnering with small businesses and entrepreneurs to realize their dreams by providing accessible capital and trusted guidance. So basically, we help small businesses with loans. We help bridge that gap with the traditional banks when they can't get funding. So we try to be that lender and help in that role and give, again, that trusted guidance that's needed. Myself, as the executive director, is the staff, Eddie McGempsey, and he was under the weather this afternoon, so please excuse him. He is our business development, and then we have Talisha Gossens with us this evening as our loan officer. And I'll share Eddie's part tonight. A little bit about our service area. We get asked a lot, where can you actually help? Is it only in Valdez? Is it only in Burke County? We actually can help anywhere in the state of North Carolina as long as it meets the USDA eligibility requirements, which is basically 50,000 or less in population. And so that is really a broad category there. However, we do try to keep our focus on the counties that are listed there, which are Burke, Caldwell, Catawba, Iredell, McDowell, and Rutherford County. And a little bit about our loan types. We specialize in startup costs for startup businesses. As you know, that's one of the main reasons that we have a lot of requests is for startup costs. We have working capital loans. We also have equipment loans, real estate loans, and debt refinancing. A little bit about our process from the very beginning is we have a preliminary pre-application process, and this is where Eddie primarily will work with the initial call that comes into the office. And basically, we will tailor and recommend based on the business needs and the strength at that time of the business, and guide them to whatever direction is needed at that time. We do have 2 requirements to work with VEDIC. We do require that they have a business plan and also a bank denial. So they do have to reach out to a traditional bank and apply. And that is so that we do not compete with a traditional bank. If they are able to get funding there, we want them to do that, because we want them to use their funds, because they have, plenty of funds available, whereas we try to help when the banks won't. So we do encourage that. And for anyone that has tried to start a business, getting that bank denial is actually fairly easy at the traditional banks, because they do require a lot of guidelines. They do require at least 2 years of financials to be in place, and so that's something that we don't require. So the business plan is what we actually help to obtain those financials that are needed, and work with our business center directors. Again, as mentioned before, we do have the pre-application that is our client's first steps, and you can actually go online to vedicnc.com and complete that. That's the very first step of our process. And at this time, I'll introduce Talisha Gostins, and she will share a little bit about the next step, which is our loan officer and underwriting process.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having us tonight. A little bit on next steps. So once the client works with Eddie to get through those initial kind of what the business is going to be built upon, what their goals, what their dreams are, it's kind of, at that point, it's passed over to me, where we do actually pull the individual's credit. We have a much lower credit requirement than most financial institutions of only a 600 credit score. We do look at their overall creditworthiness, what their history is, the current payment obligations they have, but we're willing to also assist with credit rebuilding if they're not to that minimum credit requirement. So that kind of comes into later on to the technical assistance side, where we've worked with clients for over a year in the past to get to the point where they are meet those credit requirements. As far as process, and once we've realized they meet that credit requirement, then we get to a face-to-face meeting with the client. I like to sit down with them, because you can tell pretty quick if someone has the grit to bear with the dreams and the nightmares of starting a small business. So it is nice to meet with them in person, to see what their aspirations are, what their dream is, and what pulled them into the dream of starting said small business. The documentation that we request really varies upon each request. If they've been in business, we will look at tax returns. If they've not, we'll look at projections that they've worked with the small business center in the county that they're going to be located in. They work with them in the small business centers for those projections. So we'll look at those. It may be bank statements, it really depends on what the client's situation is. But each piece overall is going to add to the overall picture and the puzzle of the client's ability to succeed in the business. From that point, their loan package is presented to our loan review committee. It's comprised of members of the community and the municipalities that we are present in. They have a varied background, from being a past small business center advisor, being in banking, working in nonprofits. We have one of the small business center advisors on our board. So just a lot of experience and knowledge is in the room. So I present the findings to our loan review committee, and from there they recommend a recommendation to our board of either approval or go back to the drawing board, ask some more questions, let's work on the plan a little bit further. Here's some members that are on our loan review committee. From that point, if the recommendation is an approval, it is the loan is presented to our board, the next step. So it is, as well as comprised of leaders in the community and the municipalities that support us, the Small Business Center, and the Western Piedmont Council of Governments. So that is presented, and ultimately the board of directors makes the final decision on approval of our loans. There is our current board members and our executive board members as well. So as you can see, a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge is in the room when those decisions are being made. Even when the loan gets past the approval, technical assistance consists for the entire life of the loan. We continue to monitor the relationship and the success of the business, and we're there as a resource for them with periodic site visits. We provide financial guidance. We have a pool of additional businesses, whether it be attorneys, accountants, whatever they may need that we can recommend to them to ensure their business is succeeding while they're with us. Because ultimately, our goal is to get them bank worthy in about a 3 to 5 year span. And through all that, we've been able, our main focus and our main goal is to create and retain jobs in our communities. So far, we've got about 870 jobs that have been created and retained in just Burke County alone. Those are some of the counties that we have assisted small business with lending. So right now, we're at over 1,100 jobs created or retained by our program.
And we wanted to also touch on the economic development impact and analytics of the program. As of today, our loan production is at 10 million, a little over 708, and we've had 210 loans, which is really amazing since we started. So we are very excited about that. Our default rate is at 3.8%, and that is 8 of the 210 loans. Our loan loss percentage since inception is 1.4%. We have the Golden Leaf Revolving Loan Fund, and this is a grant that we received when VEDIC first started. And so we are just really amazed by the revolved amount. The initial grant that we received from the Golden Leaf Foundation was $250,000, and that fund has revolved to over $900,000. So that loan may have been, $10,000 up to, our maximum loan amount. So a lot of loans could have been, made to make the revolved loan fund total there. So that's really a tremendous amount. Minority lending is something that we also focus on, and you can see at 51%, that is a lot of our lending percentage today. We also partner with Appalachian Regional Commission, and they have granted us $500,000 in ARC grants, and we to date have 37 loans that were made. And that totals $355,000, and that is with a maximum loan of $10,000 per loan. So that's quite a bit of loans there, because we do have a maximum per that grant agreement that it has to be a maximum of 10. Our current loan portfolio today is 61 loans that are active. Outstanding balance is a little over $3.1 million. And that was with an original loan amount of $3,779,250. A list of our 2025 and 2026 contributors. We just want to say thank you to Burke County for their partnership and all of those that are listed there. We couldn't do what we do today without your partnership. And many thanks to all of you and those who currently serve on our board of directors. Again, many thanks to everyone, not just those here tonight, but those before, who have planted a seed in making what VEDIC is today. There's a lot, not just who are presently serving, but many others. And at this time, we would welcome any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you, ladies. Any questions tonight for these ladies?
I'd just like to make an observation how important this program is. I stopped in the little town of Spruce Pine where we recently helped a young lady start a business there, and it's just fantastic. I mean, that town has suffered a lot, like we all have during Helene, but to see her realizing her dreams, and really because of this program, is pretty amazing. So thank you for all the work you guys do.
Mr. Chairman, I have a funny story. You know, you guys know me from the beginning. When I first heard about Vedic, I thought that was some godfather because they kept talking about I'm getting money from Vedic. And I thought, well, who is this guy? You know, anyway, good job.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? All right, again, ladies, thank you for your report tonight. Gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to accept this report as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the report as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right, item number 4 tonight comes from the County Manager's Office, presentation on the Spring 2026 Citizens Academy. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief, but I'm excited to seek approval from the board to begin our spring session of our Citizens Academy. This will be our second session, originally launched last fall. And I'll run you through just quickly some of those outcomes, some of the feedback that we got, as well as just a few minor changes and tweaks that I would consider lessons learned from that first class. As a reminder, this all originated from about this time a year ago at your strategic planning work session in March of 2025, when the Board of Commissioners prioritized continuing to engage the community and look for ways to get folks involved in boards and commissions, and really, again, try to be adaptive in the way that we communicate and align with our citizens. And with, you know, as I said, not only seeking feedback, but also providing an educational platform and strengthening trust. Our first cohort launched in the fall. We had 18. We originally were planning on starting with 10. And as you all recall, the demand exceeded our capacity, and we adapted to that and accepted, I think 20 is what we started with, and 18 folks successfully completed the entire program. That consisted of weekly sessions we did on Thursdays. We went through that 6-week program, as you're all well aware, and participated in. And the feedback was very, very strong. We were able to conduct some surveys after each week, and at the end of the 6-week program in totality, 100% of folks said that they were very satisfied. We were really pleased about that. We obviously shared with those folks, and they knew this was our first time doing it. There were lessons learned. Sometimes, you know, estimating time and making sure all the right things were in the right places at times was a bit of a challenge, but we got really good feedback, and I think that we're more prepared heading into our second session than we were our first one. It also got really strong engagement outside of the class, so only 18 folks in the class, but we saw week to week, the county's PIO office got really good feedback about just general people that were interested and really giving us some encouragement to continue that. We did see a little bit in our data collection mode, a little bit of an emphasis on more interaction, which isn't surprising. I think folks really liked getting in an ambulance. I think people like being at the landfill and operating equipment and doing some more interactive exercises, which, again, in the limited amount of time, is going to be a tall task for us in the second session. But we think we can do that and facilitate it. Some very minor tweaks, again, if you will, that we're asking the board to consider is going from 6 weeks to 7 weeks. With the first week, the curriculum largely being the same, but we saw, again, as this idea of being lessons learned, week 1 being more about introductory and relationship building and why are you interested in this course. And we found by week 3 last time there were folks who didn't know other people's names because we jumped directly in and got after the business, and we think that could be a significant enhancement. We've also designed an interactive budget process that we think is really, really helpful in seeing some of the challenges of attaching scarce resources to multiple priorities. Now that we have some alumni, and we want to invite some of those folks back who are eager to continue to be a part of it, to be engaged, act as coaching, give some feedback, some advice, and then we want to send folks home weekly, even though they have their information booklets and some of that kind of stuff. We want to create infographics that give them kind of key points, if you will, from each week that they can keep with them. We would like to keep it on Thursdays, but we anticipate in the fall, we told folks to plan for 90 minutes. We learned quickly that that wasn't enough time. We think we can do it in 2 hours. So again, a small modification there to extend it and doing it over a 7-week period. We know all of the goals that we're trying to accomplish there. We think that we can be prepared to launch April the 9th. And that would essentially take us into June. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and again, seeking approval to begin accepting those applications.
All right, thank you, Mr. Epley. Any questions for Mr. Epley on this item? All right, seeing here none, I'll entertain a motion to accept this report and open the application portal.
Mr. Chairman, motion to accept the report as presented and open the application portal.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That is 5-0. All right, thank you very much. And we do have one additional item tonight. Wasn't broadly broadcast, but we do want to make one recognition tonight. We have a fellow among us that has indicated he wants to start relaxing more and thinking about retirement, and Mr. Glines is thinking about just doing exactly that, and we appreciate the work that Alan has done here in Burke County. And we wanted to, Alan, tonight come forward, and Mr. Manager, we want to present you with a little token of our appreciation, a walking stick and a poster, and again, take just a moment to take a picture with you, okay?
That's the cover of his new book. He's writing a book. Wow.
Alan, we appreciate the work that you've done here in Burke County as well. We wish you the very best.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody ready?
All right, thank you
We
very
do
much.
have 2 public hearings, but I have the benefit of my staff being here. Bradley Kirkley's here, Kenny Green, and Patrick Dickinson. So they'll be presenting those items tonight, but of course, we're all here. But thank you so much. It's been my pleasure to work for Burke County, work for you all. And I'm sure you all have worked a lot with the staff we have here in Burke County. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that we have some of the best staff who are working hard every day to do the best they can for the citizens of Burke County. So we're trying to move things forward, and they're doing a fine job. And I just wanted to acknowledge my colleagues who I've had the pleasure of working with, as well as you all. Thank you.
Thank you all. This will bring us to scheduled public hearings tonight. We do have 2 scheduled public hearings. First one coming from Community Development, consideration of ordinance 2026-01, amending Chapter 10, Buildings and Building Regulations of the Burke County Code and Public Hearing. This will be presented tonight by Kenneth Green, our Chief Building Inspector, and/or Mr. Glines, and our Planning Director.
How are y'all? I want to start with saying it's been a pleasure to work under Mr. Glines for the first few years I've been here, so I'm going to hate to see him go. I told him numerous times that y'all declined his resignation, so he cannot retire yet, but he seems to disagree with me. So So y'all forgive me as I fumble through this. This is one of Alan's projects too, and he's been good enough to prepare this. But the reason we're here is just to make some revisions to the ordinance. As you can see, it was wrote in 1993. It's over 33 years old. We're just here to bring it to the 21st century. Some of the things we're trying to accomplish is just to streamline and standardize the permitting and inspection department. We're trying to establish a uniform process for enforcement. I know the old ordinance allowed for a housing appeals board. We've done away with that, and we're going to bring an appeals board straight back to the Board of Commissioners. So if anyone appeals an order that we have in place or anything, it'll come in front of y'all, just like we did with the Marshallese. See if I can figure this out. In January 2021, general statute, we combined two general statutes. Used to be two, one for cities and one for counties. They were combined into 160D. There was a couple highlights that was on it. They outlined expiration rules for permits across all jurisdictions. They created inspection scheduling and compliance. They require us to have an inspection done within 48 hours. And they're making some allowances for electronic submissions. Also made some, recently, some remote inspection alternatives for certain inspections. Not all inspections. We're allowed to take live remote inspections. Re-inspections or stuff lower importance, like a simple change out, if the technician is on site, instead of inconveniencing the homeowner for a visit before he leaves, he can call one of us and we can do a live remote inspection and prove his work, and not have to inconvenience the homeowner. The alternative inspection method is the Appendix G. It's only approved for certain elements and components of a project. If we start, a lot of mobile home manufacturers use it. A lot of the footing companies come in, they like to dig a footing first thing in the morning and get it inspected and do it. And it's hard to schedule sometimes with us to get that on the same day. So they'll use an engineered alternative to where they can live remote with an engineer, and the engineer signs off on the Appendix G that he approved the footings. And that saves us, we don't have to go out for that visit, and it relieves us of any liability of it on that Appendix G form. A couple things changed in building permits. The limits were raised for non-licensed contractors, so our do-it-yourselfers and deck builders with the cost of materials and everything, you can do up to $40,000 worth of work without a license. Cosmetic projects, also, you can do $40,000 work without a permit, as long as it's cosmetic, not structural. They put clear guidelines for conflicts of interest in. Inspectors can't approve, permits or anything they have a financial interest in, nor can they do inspections on work they've performed or had contracted. And they've created a civil penalty for enforcement of stop work orders or condemns and stuff. They've made it a Class 1 misdemeanor if someone don't abide by the order. Just put this out here for a clear guideline on what happens in an enforcement process. If someone files a complaint, me or one of my staff, typically me, will conduct an investigation, or a code enforcement officer, Mr. Mahler. If we find cause that there's a reason or something wrong with the building, we'll post a building, send a letter to the owner, have the hearing in our office, give them a chance to tell us what's going on. We'll determine the findings of fact and come up with a remedy, whether it's just a simple repair. You need to fix it, if the landlord needs to fix the deck for his tenant so he can get in his house safely, or if it's something that's beyond repair, if we need to vacate and board it up. We'll issue the initial order. All orders have a chance for an appeal. If they appeal it, then it would come in front of the board. And then y'all would have the final say whether or not to affirm the order, modify and affirm, or revoke the order. Just a couple of the things that I'm talking about, this is a commercial building that this is something that we would investigate and go after. It's obviously dangerous. It's not secured. You know, anybody can walk in it. Some of the other things, like residential wise, if you have these burnout and abandoned homes around the county, as you can see the first one, recently we had a call, fire department had a call for there because someone was sleeping in it and they had a road sign in there, building a fire on top of the road sign. I mean, something like that, you know, you can't really secure it. We would give an order to demolish or remove that from somebody's property. But we're not looking to go after, you know, something just because somebody has an abandoned mobile home on their property. But we are, if it's unsecured and vagrants and stuff are coming into the house, we need to do something about it. The other double wide there, that's just a burnout. That's just an example of something that's wide open and dangerous to kids in the neighborhood or anybody wanting to play. I was a kid, I always wanted to go see stuff like that. So that's all we're looking to do, is just to update the ordinances to follow the new guidelines.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard the information, considering updating, amending chapter number 10, building and building regulations. Any questions for Kenneth?
One quick question. The abandoned homes that you showed at the end there.
Yeah.
Is that still going to be operated on a complaint basis, or are you saying we're actively going to start?
If it's something, we try to do it on a complaint basis, but if it's something we're driving by or we're getting calls, like we're getting calls on that. I mean, that one, the fire department had a call on, you know, so.
So they are still driven by complaints?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
One thing for me, Kenneth, thanks for all you're doing. This was good news to me, I think, on like the inspections for the footings of modulars and stuff like that. Because that is a big thing, even like with the pole barns and stuff like that, because they, you know, you get the hole dug and you got to wait up.
Yeah, you got to
throws the whole thing off. It might be a
Yeah.
week later before they can get back out there. It kills the crews and stuff. So what you're saying is they'll have somebody right there that can take a picture, verify what the people are doing.
You know, that what we was talking about there was an engineered option. We're not, the live remote inspections don't go to footings for us. It only goes to either re-inspections and certain things, simple, more things that you can tell by looking at. It's hard to tell from a video, but the engineered option is you can hire a lot of the Clayton and a couple of other manufacturer developers have engineers that they've contracted with, and I see, and they'll let them do a live remote for a footing and stuff, and they can sign off on that Appendix G form.
Thank you.
It's typically on a footing, but as far as live remotes, I don't think footing was on the list of approved.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments? All right, gentlemen, no further questions. I'll open the public hearing at this time. Is there anyone here to speak to this item tonight? Seeing here none, I'll close the public hearing at this time. Gentlemen, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2026-01, amending Chapter 10, Buildings and Building Regulations of the Burke County Code as amended. As presented.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Brings us to item number 2, also coming from Community Development, consideration of an ordinance number 2026-02 for ZTA 2025-02, amending Articles 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7 of Burke County zoning ordinance in public hearing. This will be presented tonight by Patrick Dickinson. Good evening, Patrick.
Good evening, y'all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. Also, just wanted a quick shout out to Mr. Glines. He has taken me under his wing as a fresh planner out of school, and I just wanted to say thank you very much to not only Allen, but also the entire county for supporting our work and his work. And I'm very, very sad that he's leaving us, but we might have to take y'all up on that moratorium on retirements. But anyway, to the business of tonight, we are bringing forth ZTA 2025-02. This is our next step in our and kind of our overhaul of our zoning ordinance. Last year, y'all charged the Community Development Department to look for areas where we could remove some of that regulatory burden and really working towards your goal of investing in that cultural capital and becoming a community to live, work, and play in. And a part of that is looking at how we can adjust our zoning ordinance to support that mission. So tonight, I am bringing forth I would consider this a minor update, but this is really knocking off some of our community's most wanted requests, and then also getting us up to date with some state compliance as well. So I did just want to start off, our zoning ordinance was looked over by this group of professionals and community members. They provided a lot of feedback to us and gave us a lot of insight into different things that, we don't look at staff. We look at the same documents every single day, 5 times a day, and we really get kind of into that little hole. So this was great to get this group of folks. These are folks from all across the community that we work with daily and getting their thoughts and opinions on that. So moving into the actual substance of this, we have gotten a lot of requests to adjust our accessory structure allotment. We knew this wasn't working. We had a burden on our Board of Adjustment and also staff. We were seeing about 3 to 4 cases a month at the Board of Adjustment for this, so that told us we needed to make some adjustments quickly. So we are proposing upgrading our proposed size allowances. As y'all can see right there, if you're under an acre, your allotment would be 1,500. If you're between 1 and 3, that's 2,400 square feet. And then if you're over 3, that's a 4,000 square foot allotment. And anything that's larger than that would still go to the BOA. That's the existing structure that was already in place. And we're also going to build in an exemption for existing structures. We know a lot of folks have old barns, old sheds, things like that, and we don't want that becoming a burden on those folks either. We also have updated the setbacks as well. So now the setbacks will work as your building gets larger, your setbacks get larger, and it's kind of on a rolling tier system. So it's pretty clear what you're getting at when you get pull a permit for that. And we've also included shipping containers. We know this is something the community has asked for. We want to make sure that we do it right though. So we do have a provision up here that it would be on a proper foundation just to make sure that's done properly and it works with neighborhood character. All right, so this was kind of show where we were at with the accessory structures cases. As you can see, these 3 examples on the bottom here are all cases that were approved last year by the BOA that would not have had to go to the BOA if we have this ordinance approved tonight. We realized that a majority of these were getting approved, and the vast majority of them were for large tracts and also for personal storage. So we wanted to look to find ways to kind of balance the accessory structure with the BOA's power and role in determining that as well. All right, into some of our housing options. I'm sure many of you are aware of the tiny home fad that has taken over the housing world. We are stepping into the 21st century with that as well. This is defined by Appendix Q of the North Carolina Building Code. We're just putting it into our zoning ordinance to allow that to be a housing option and to be something that we can permit under. That permanent foundation language is a part of the Appendix Q, but our task force did tell us that we wanted to make sure we had that language up there, that it would be on a permanent foundation to delineate between park models, RVs, and what an actual permanent tiny home would be. For our accessory dwelling units, Mr. Barrier had made a comment about some of our restrictions on the characters in the current ordinance that was sent out last week. We have removed that language and referred it back to the previous language of that character. We are now upping the square footage to be 1,000 heated square feet. We don't want to knock you for your decks, your porches, and your other things like that. So that's just a little clarification there. And then also we have cleaned up our manufactured home park section. A lot of what our language was we had Article 6, which is our design standards, your roadway width, your parking, that kind of stuff. We had duplicate standards in mobile homes, and that made it really confusing for folks that were looking to take over these mobile home parks or to build a new one and to make improvements. So we cleaned that up and made it all in that one little section. And then we also maintain those requirements for owner responsibility, trash, maintenance, those kinds of things, as suggested by our task force. And then we also included the tax payment. Traditionally, what we were looking at for lots in mobile homes, if you did not have power to the lot for 12 months, you lost the right to that lot. We can't call Duke, we don't want to have that discussion. So if you're paying taxes on it, you get to use that lot. We just wanted to clarify that and make sure that was codified in that zoning ordinance as well. So moving on to a special development. There are two separate special developments here. That first one on the top, cluster developments, these are going to be in areas that are in watershed protection areas. These are not floodplains. Watershed protection areas are where our drinking water runs through the watershed, goes into the Catawba River, and these are the areas we want to keep open space, not a lot of development, things like that to improve our water quality. These provide some incentives for developers, and they must use some best management practices in those stormwater management practices as well. And then that second one is the community master plan. In our current zoning ordinance, we have the planned unit development. This is an outdated term in the planning world. So this community master plan is for a 2-acre minimum parcel, and this is going to be a flexible community master plan. What this is going to be something like the Innovation Campus in Morganton, those sorts of things. This would go through a process where it's conditional zoning. So it would go to the planning board first. There's a approval process there, public hearing. They would do all their recommendations. They would work with the developer in the community to tailor that a little bit more. Then it comes to y'all. Y'all get it, look at it, you have a public hearing. There's that back and forth again, community and the developer. And then they go forward. That site is then governed through the master plan, so they have to stick to that master plan. They have to have the same uses, the same requirements that were there, and that was come up with the board here and with the planning board. Here are some examples. A cluster development that's pretty close to home. This is over in Granite Falls, right across from Granite Falls Brewery. This is not exactly this is just an example of what one of these cluster developments could be. These are typically smaller lot sizes, closer to each other, typically have a common shared open space. Not everyone has their own yard kind of thing. And this is an affordable housing. This is the type of housing that can be built in an affordable rate, and this is also built by a local builder as well. So this is a type of technology that we're starting to see really being utilized here in our area as well. And then for that community master plan, the Morganton Innovation Campus, I think is a great example. That's a local example for that. These are communities that would really mix all different sorts of uses, commercial, light manufacturing, residential, office space, and also green space. So that can be kind of worked into that community master plan. And then finally, we have some more administrative changes. I'm not sure if any of you are up to date on this, but the state now has utility scale solar farm requirements. These are decommissioning requirements that NCDEQ manages. Basically what this is if a solar farm wants to come in and take over a parcel, they have to go to NCDEQ with a decommissioning plan. This decommissioning plan is something that tells how they have the money, how they would take all these solar panels off the site, and then return it back to its previous use. We are just stepping into the 21st century and putting an actual term in our zoning ordinance for this, for utility scale solar farms. And they would be permitted only in the industrial zoning by right. The rest of them would have to go through a special use permit process. And then finally, we've transitioned from requiring paper copies, which is many of our developers will appreciate, to digital site plans, which will really just speed up that process from start to finish across the board. And then also have solidified board rules with the planning board reviewing those permitted uses in our zoning ordinance and those community master plans, with the Board of Adjustment continuing to work on those special use permits. Do y'all have any questions for me?
All right, thank you, Patrick. Any questions to Patrick on this zoning?
I just want to say, good job, Patrick. I think Alan's got a great replacement. And you guys, both you boys, good job.
Thank you. Questions? Patrick, I did have one question under 5.6, multifamily townhouse. Recently, we made some changes to density and talked about if public water, public sewer were available, half acre or less. It seems like in 5.6, maybe this contradicts some of that thought process. Under multifamily townhouse condominium, minimum lot or overall project area should be 2 acres. Is that, am I reading that wrong, or should we consider making that 1 acre to be more comparable to the other changes we've made in other areas?
You said it was in section 5.6?
5.6, yes.
Okay, give me just 1 second.
And that was not apparently a change, perhaps, Alan, but you might be able to answer that question. it just seemed that, in other ordinances that we worked on recently, I think we used half-acre lot.
So, oh, you can go ahead.
Well, it's the lot reduction was for mostly, individual platted parcels. So maybe a home, a small home sometimes, but on a smaller lot, depending on access to utilities. But this other section is really covering kind of like the master plan, and the townhomes could be, they're not gonna be on, that's not gonna measure their lot to have to be an acre or 2 acres, whatever it's like. They could have multiple on that tract of land as a master plan.
I guess, is this under the master plan area, or is this standalone? I guess what I'm thinking, and maybe I'm all wet here, just say you got a 1 acre tract.
Yeah.
That if it were, divided into 2, you could use half acre and put a house on each half acre. But what if you wanted to put a duplex on a 1 acre lot? Would
15,000 gives you
would that disallow that here, or am I in the wrong section?
I think what you are referring to would be governed under the community master plan, what you're talking about. This, I think, is specifically for like apartment complexes. These are going to be those high-density type developments that are just residential in nature. So I see where you're going with the lot sizes. That's tailoring more towards your typical subdivisions, single-family homes, that sort of setup. This is more for an actual, like a high-density apartment complex would be what this is more tailored to.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not one-offs, like they're not individual townhomes, it's like a community of townhomes.
Yeah.
And they can occupy, multiple units on one track.
So this wouldn't apply to just the guy that's got an acre lot and wanted to put up a duplex?
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't apply to him. That's not really a townhome, that's actually, the duplex would be residential development, meeting our standards.
On a single tract.
On a single tract of land.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman, so could you tell me how this relates to traditional zoning versus conditional zoning? Is this master plan is along the traditional zoning path, correct? That would be the permit pull?
Conditional zoning is a flexible master plan project created by the commission and the community and the developer. So we meet community goals that the developer would sort of negotiate with you all through their proposal. You all would have flexibility to offer certain concessions or agreement or whatever on the plan, or turn it this way or adjust it, in certain ways so that it fits the community and it's something you all can support. So it's completely flexible on the part of the commissioners. So it's kind of a modern.
And is it up to the developer to decide which to apply for?
It would be up to the developer. Well, they generally come in with a proposal, and then the staff will work with it to try to understand, how it fits the code, in some ways, or where it needs a little flexibility or help, and we'll present all that to the board as part of the overall master plan. So it's a master plan with conditions, and those conditions spell out uses and the arrangements and things like that based on the plan, based on any flexibility. So the lot, the number of units that could be approved or whatever you all would agree to at the location proposed.
So is all that gonna happen at the planning board before it comes here?
Right, it goes to the site plan review committee first with staff, which is your staff here, in other departments as well, safety, public safety, fire marshal, building, and DOT. Goes to the planning board for their review, and they always provide, anytime there's a rezoning, they always provide a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. So they'll give you feedback. We'll convey that information. They're not usually coming here, but we'll convey their support or questions they had or things they suggested through the master plan process to you all when staff would present.
Other questions? All right, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
With that information and no further questions, I'll open the public hearing at this time. Anyone here tonight speak to this matter? Seeing here none, I'll close the public hearing. Gentlemen, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2026-02 as it relates to zoning text amendment 2025-02, zoning ordinance Articles 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7, to 1, modernize development procedures, 2, expand residential accessory structure allowances, and 3, reorganize, clarify, and streamline zoning regulations as presented. The Board of Commissioners finds this amendment to be reasonable and in the public interest and consistent with the goals of the Blueprint Burke Strategic Land Use Plan because it promotes efficient land use regulations and diverse housing options, reduces unnecessary regulatory burdens on property owners, and supports the community advancement by facilitating the ability of residents to live, work, and play in Burke County.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Barry. All those in favor of this motion signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right, this brings us to item number 8, informal public comments tonight. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody to speak tonight?
I don't have anybody signed up.
All right, thank you very much. All right, this brings us to item number 9, the consent agenda. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fairly lengthy, so bear with me as I work through it. Each of these items, as you recall, were presented to you at your pre-agenda meeting. Item 1 is from Burke County Public Schools, presentation of Q2 12/31/2025 financial data. Item number 2 is from Western Piedmont Community College. Similarly, Q2 2025 financial data for the period ending December 31st. Item 3, also from the Tourism Development Authority, their Q2 ending financial performance. Item number 4 is from our clerk's office, and that contains both appointments and reappointments for consideration. Item number 5 is budget amendment number 8 on the year for $20,000. And as a reminder, this is election reimbursement from the city of Hickory for their primary. Item number 6 is budget amendment number 9 for $650,000. And this is a requested drawdown from Western Piedmont Community College from their capital reserve fund to replace electrical panels and other items across campus. Item number 7 is budget amendment number 10, requested budget $2,000, which is a contribution from the town of Hildebrand to our East Burke Senior Center for a Senior Day celebration. Item number 8 for consideration is budget amendment number 11, which is a grant from the ASPCA to our Animal Services Department. $52,000, does not require any county match, and that will be used for spay neuter of animals. Item 9, budget amendment number 12, is a grant from the Gateway Wellness Foundation, $15,800 to our senior center, and that will fund additional senior meals. Item 10 is budget number 13. These are contributions from Friends of the Fauna Flora Trail and the Over Mountain Victory Trail. As you recall, there's a project to widen the Canal Bridge area for pedestrian crossing. It's about a $1.5 million project. DOT is putting in 1.2. This additional $310,000 from those nonprofits would be that gap. Item number 11, budget amendment number 14, is $1 million of additional stream bank remediation dollars. Item number 12 is for consideration of surplus property sales, and these are for the properties that did meet the minimum reserve. We'll talk as an item for decision about the ones that did not. And finally, for consideration, item number 13 from the Finance Department, which is a contract in line with our other agreements with Rutherford College to collect their taxes. Happy to answer any questions.
We're gonna move that item over to decision.
Yeah, I thought it was decision. Yeah, that's right. The resolution.
Yes, the resolution. We'll move that to decision since we did not have opportunity to talk about that during our regular meeting. Any other question on this consent item? All right, seeing here none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent item agendas 1 through 13.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you very much. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0. All right, we have several items for decision tonight. First one tonight comes from our clerk, appointments to the Opioid Advisory Committee. This will be presented by Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen of the audience. This is a request to make some appointments or reappointments to the Opioid Advisory Committee for seats 4, 7, and 10. Seat number 4 represents educators, and there are 2 applications on file. Seat number 7 represents employers. Also, you have 2 applications on file. And seat number 10 is a reappointment and represents stakeholders with diversity.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's deal with the first one, motion to remove Dr. Welch's name from the roster and thank him for his service. Have a motion to accept that.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Brings us to seat number 4. As Kay said, we have two nominees for that seat, Rob Angley or Ava Yamuti. I would entertain nominations for seat number 4.
Mr. Chairman, I'll nominate Ava Yamuti.
Have nominations for Ms. Yamuti. Are there other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close the nominations. Those in favor of seating Ms. Yamuti in seat number 4, signify by the uplifted hand. I'll make that motion if need be. All right, thank you very much. Seat number 7, appoint or reappointment for this seat. We have two, again, nominations or two nominees for this seat, Katie Olson or Jesse Stout. This represents employers or business leaders. Term ending February the 14th, 2029. Seat number 7, do I hear nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I'll nominate Katie Olson.
Are there other nominations? Seeing here no other nominations, nominations will be closed. All those in favor of seating Ms. Olson in that seat, please signify by the uplifted hand. I'll make the motion, Madam Clerk. 5-0. All right. Then we'll need a motion to reappoint Hannah Houston to the Opioid Advisory Committee, seat number 10, as a stakeholder with diversity for a 3-year term ending February the 14th, 2029.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burns. Those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0. And Madam Clerk, did we not need to deal with Dr. Welch's seat? Did we do that? Okay, that was the seat number 4. Okay, thank you very much. Yes. All right. Brings us to item number 2 from the County Manager's Office, update on opioid abatement. This will be presented by Katie Samuels. There's Katie. You've been hiding in here, Katie. I haven't seen you.
Mr. Chairman, hold on, restroom. You can go on.
It's a little chilly over in that corner also. There's a draft. Well, good evening. I started off the day with some of you, and I guess I'm closing out the day with some of you too. I'm going to present to you an update on the work that our opioid response team has been up to. So this is our trends dashboard. In calendar year 2025, there were 370 suspected overdose calls that came in through our 911 system. And 93 of those, after they were responded to, went to get treatment, they were verified to be overdoses. But this is an example of the variety of calls that come in that our BEAR team can respond to. And so we had over 900 BEAR eligible calls since January 1st of this year. And those calls represent about 30% of all incoming calls to EMS. So we're super excited to see what this team can do and see the capacity that it can build for our EMS, and also the opportunity to engage with people that are coming in for a variety of different non-emergent reasons that can be engaged to get into treatment. In 2024, we had 50 verified overdose fatalities, and that was down from 60 the year before. And we're also seeing a decrease in ED visits. We had 119 in 2025, and last year was the first time in quite some time that we weren't in the top 10 of all counties for ED visits for opioid or for overdose. So you can see the trend line here of our overdose fatalities and how that's decreasing. We're also seeing a decrease in foster care entries linked to parental substance use, and this is pulled from the state, so it's trailing a little bit. So the last data point there was from 2023. And then the individuals in treatment, this is really the next phase of what we want to approach as we're looking at saving people's lives, decreasing fatalities, but we want to see that treatment number increase and more folks get into treatment and in recovery. So this is an overview of the programs that are currently funded. There are currently 9 active programs. And there also has been an update since I created this dashboard where we have the majority of these are fully operational now. So where you see the BEAR team, Community Navigator, FCTR, and Low Barrier MAT, those are fully operational. And I can go into that in more detail a little bit later in the slides. And then you can see also the unique resolutions by year and month and how that's increased since 2020, between 2025 and now, as we've moved into restructuring this department and bringing more resolutions and interventions here before you guys to approve. So you can see also in this slide that our total disbursements are around 25 million, but those are front loaded and we get those over time. And that means that we also have to track the amount that we're allocating versus our cash flow. So the next slide is an example of a tool that we've created in our department to look at that cash flow projection to see how much over capacity that we can prioritize things like recovery housing or other option A strategies, and how much we can invest in those things. So we're actively looking at what does that look like over the next 18 years and how much can we invest in the community that also aligns with our cash flow projection. And so our current strategies, BEAR Team and Community Navigator, Burke County Recovery Court, High Country Community Health, Spark, and a Caring Alternative. And our BEAR Team and Community Navigator are up and going strong. We also have hired the majority of this team. We're still actively seeking only one person. So we have 7 people out of an 8-person team that is up and going and will soon be 24/7. So at the time of this report, a few weeks ago, we had 64 responses. We've had more than that now, but our response volume has actually tripled in the last month and a half. 35% of those, we're seeing even the fall calls and some other types of things that we're responding to, they're becoming opportunities to engage people in treatment. So these are folks that are experiencing a history of or active opioid use. So we're also having regular coordination with EMS, hospitals, treatment providers, and community organizations, and looking to implement Goldie, which is a case management software, fully in the next few weeks. So that will help us track long-term our repeat EMS utilizers, repeat overdose folks, and be able to look at outcomes involving housing, food insecurity, workforce development, and really wrap these folks up with some support. So Burke County Recovery Court has total active 23 participants with 5 new intakes in the last quarter of last year. They're seeing a 50% employment rate at the time of graduation. And you can see here the outgoing referrals and connections that they're making, as well as the peer contacts, outreach contacts, and trainings that team is going to. High Country Community Health manages our low barrier MOUD or MAT program, and they are actively serving participants as well. They've served 51 participants, 100% of them with opioid use disorder. They had 9 field inductions, which is where they're going out to meet people where they are, engaging with them, and then getting them to come back into the office. So we're working very closely with High Country and Dr. Meek in doing that handoff with our BEAR team also. They have early retention data, 46 participants retained in 30 days, 37 at 90 days, and 58% engaged in MOUD beyond 3 months. So this is really where we're starting to see some impact with getting people engaged and retained in treatment. Spark is our Family Centered Treatment Recovery, or FCTR program, and they are working with community organizations, including DSS, and are currently serving 6 families with a total of 80 participant contacts, 32 family sessions, 25 peer support sessions, and 5 random drug screens during this reporting period, and averaging about 11 service hours per family. So they are also engaging with these families, helping to keep the kids in their home placements and keeping adults engaged in treatment, whether that's mental health or substance use, through the use of that peer support specialist and that treatment model. A Caring Alternative manages SACOT and SAIOP, which is Substance Abuse Comprehensive Outpatient Treatment and Substance Abuse Intensive Outpatient. They've gotten the nod from the state about their licensure, so they have a couple more steps to get their credentialed, get their program credentialed and up and going. In the meantime, they have hired their staff and they're doing community outreach and taking people in to do individual sessions, so that when they are fully credentialed, they already have the referrals coming in and the people to start doing these groups. And so they're also engaging with our recovery court partners to start being a source of treatment for those folks in that program as well. And so our ongoing strategy is to continue monitoring and reporting on funded programs. We've set up a standardized reporting tool where the programs that we're funding are reporting regularly. And we're building these dashboards so that we can present this to you. And we're looking at an average estimation of about $400,000 to $550,000 per year available for additional investments. So that goes back into our cash flow projection tool and how much we can invest in different priorities over time and still maintain a minimum floor for our funding. And looking forward to continuing to share this good news with y'all. I'm really excited about these programs that were funded, and they are super excited about the work that they're doing as well. We're starting to see them work with us and the BEAR team, but also to work with each other to build that provider network, which is really what we wanted to see start happening this year. So I appreciate your support and the backing that we have with these strategies, and again, excited to tell you the good news about it. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Katie. A lot of good work going on here. Any questions for Katie tonight?
I just have 2. Katie, we had the overdose deaths for 24 at 50. Do you know when we'll get data for 25?
So I have recently gotten access into the North Carolina Vital Record System, so I'll be able to, within the next few weeks, give that projection. It takes the state about 6 months to officially certify death certificates. So what we'll see is we'll have some data for the first half of 2025, and then the second half will be like suspected. But once I'm able to pull that report, I'll be able to give it to you all, and you can see what that estimation is going to look like.
Okay, and just one other question. I was watching the opioid task force meeting, the last one that you guys had, and I know that we had voted to fund, and you've kind of reviewed a Caring Alternative and Spark. And so I was trying to understand, I don't catch all the lingo at your task force meetings, but it sounded like there was another organization that had asked for some funding. But it sounded to me like these clinical assessments and treatment corridors or treatment paths were already being done by a Caring Alternative and Spark. Was there something that they were planning on doing? I was a little surprised that the board, the task force said, yeah, let's do that. But it seemed to me like it was redundant services.
Mm-hmm.
You remember what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah. So there were some comments made during that committee meeting that made us go back to the drawing board and start doing a provider assessment. So we've actually partnered with Partners Managed Care Organization to get a list of all of the providers in the county that are doing that specific service. And so we're calling and seeing if they have a backlog, if they have a wait list, and doing some research around like what is the need in the community, and is it this service that they're proposing, or is it something else? So
Okay.
we're just taking a little bit of a step back with it and doing some market research.
Yeah, because my understanding, I made a few calls after that meeting trying to get a little more clarity, and it seemed like the folks I talked to did not have a backlog, and so I thought, well, let's don't give away money just to give away money. But if we need it, of course we need it. So thank you for all the work you do.
Absolutely.
Other questions?
I just have one quick question. I know when we kind of started down this road before we reset and all that good stuff, there was some issues or questions surrounding the coding process at the hospital. Has that been redefined? Do we know that when something goes into the ER, the ED, for example, and it's coded as opioid related, I guess my question is, are we separating out deputies at the jail that were exposed that had to go? Do we understand that we're only coding people now that are truly an opioid crisis?
Can you tell me that one more time?
All right, so the data that we were looking at one time was based on coding that was happening in the ED. Has that been redefined? Because I know at one time, for example, if the jail had to send some correctional officers over to the ER because of an exposure, they were coded as opioid. So have we separated exposures from users, I guess is my question.
So I don't know the exact answer to that. I do know that the numbers that I'm showing you here are actually pulled down from the state. We do have the ability to work with the hospital system to pull some numbers directly, but it's still based on ICD-10 coding. So it's really whatever code is put in when that person comes in through the emergency department. So even if it were an exposure, they might still use that same code. So it's a little bit hard to parcel out unless you're going case by case. But what we're seeing across this region in the county is a really sharp decline in emergency department visits for overdose. But I think it's worth looking into with our hospital partners to see if we can parcel it out a little bit. I'm sorry that didn't answer your question better.
Yeah, I had just a brief moment. I think what Commissioner Burns is referring to is there was a reported spike in overdose that proportionally wasn't a significantly high number, and it was something that was presented in a way that required immediate action. I think is what you're talking about. And we, after tracing it back, it was largely tied to ICD-10 coding versus some influx. And this was 18, 24 months ago at this point.
I remember.
So I do expect that there's more uniformity in coding now that we all have more experience in this market. But I think one thing that I would say as a matter of confidence to the data that's being presented is we internally have in EMS and our community paramedic program and in 911 have a way to code those calls that are coming in and compare that to the hospital data, so we're not entirely reliant on a sole source of information. So that gives us a tremendous, and we started because of that particular situation actually. So I would just say that we have much more confidence in what we're presenting because we have that quality assurance component.
Yeah, and from that spike alert, so we were receiving that from the state. Since then, we've put some measures in place so that we can get that data locally and in a timely manner, and it's more accurate than if we're just looking at a state dashboard. We've created those partnerships with the hospital, with the sheriff's office, and the medical examiner and the vital record system to be able to look at the local data and not be pulling it down, but instead pushing it up.
Mr. Chairman. Katie, thank you for all you guys do. How many religious organizations do we have here locally that really support everything we're doing? Everything I look at in anything we're doing here in the county, it's going to take all of us, all in. And this has really been a hard spot for me. I think a lot of this can fall on some of the spiritual things that churches provide to help people, guide them, and those kind of things, help them overcome. But are there any organizations that say, hey, we want to come and support Spark? And, I think that there can be a way that we can support these groups with our church base, I feel. I don't know if I'm out of order saying those things, but I feel like that's are we getting any kind of support from our religious brotherhoods? and
We
sisters?
are actually getting a lot of requests from churches for naloxone training. And so the team has been going out, I think they just did one last week, and training whole congregations on how to
Okay.
use naloxone and respond to an overdose. So we're seeing some of that. We would love to see faith partnerships like on the Opioid Advisory Council, and
Yeah.
as much as they want to be engaged, we want to encourage that.
I really want to support that myself. It's just a personal thing, I guess. I really want to see our churches participate with like Spark and, you know, all the different ones that are doing things, you know, not saying they got to go on, but we can support them some kind of way with all the people that are already fostering and stuff. So that's another subject, but I really want to see us spiritually step up. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Other questions, comments? All right, seeing here none. Katie, thank you for your report tonight. Again, good work. Gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to accept this report.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0. All right, item number 3 comes from finance, property surplus sales. This will be presented tonight by Brian Neef, our purchasing agent. And gentlemen, you recall we had several properties that did not meet the minimum reserve bid, and so we're going to take a look at those individually. Pretty clear here. I don't know, Brian, how much we need to hear about it, the gentleman. We got 3 properties. We can talk broadly. Do you want to consider declining and reposting, or declining and repost with revised reserve, or do you want to consider approving these bids as we received and move along with these 3 properties? Any discussions?
Mr. Chairman, did any of them meet the requirement? Or none of them came up to the standard?
They were just shy, all 3 of them were just shy of the reserve amount.
None of them. I don't think we should give land away, you know.
Can you tell us what the reserves are based on again?
Yeah.
The reserves were, I think they were decided between, I think, finance and the county manager. And I thought it was a discussion with the board members, but I could be incorrect. I think we looked at what the property's kind of tax value was, what may have been paid for by the county over a period of time. I will tell you, if you do decide to accept these bids, because the way they're set up on gov deals, because the bid did not meet the reserve, we're obligated to award the bid to them. If you vote to award them the bid, the bidder will then have 48 hours to whether or not they want to accept what we call a second offer. So you could award this bid to someone, and they still could choose to turn it down. They're not obligated to make the purchase. But if they do accept it, then it goes into the same process as the others. They're required to get, the clock in 30 days will start for them to get the bid deposit in this case, we probably wouldn't require a bid deposit, because you already would have decided to award them the property. And then they would just have 30 days to complete the sale, make all the payments.
Gentlemen, I would just remind us, these properties have been held by the county now for quite some time, I think, in most cases. And so they're not, you know, we're not getting any tax revenue as to the state that they're in.
Just to help with a little the context, just the property on Rocky Ford is based on the GIS records. I mean, the county has owned it since 1984. So it's been sitting on the books for quite a while. The other 2, the Kirksey properties, were just purchased as recently as 2021, so they're not as old, but just understanding how long they have been owned by the county.
So if we turn it down, you said they have 4 days to meet the reserve? Is that what you're saying?
No, if you decide to award that to them, so if you accept their highest bid, we then tonight or tomorrow, I would send them, on gov deals, you offer them a second chance. So then they have 48 hours to, if they want to accept us, willing to accept their offer. Because the property's set up where they're not required to complete the sale unless we accept their bid, they would then have 48 hours to decide, yes, I'm willing to sell to you, I'm willing to agree your terms, or they can decide, you know what, I've changed my mind. No, I'm no longer interested.
And if you don't accept it, we repost it. And I would point out that the reserve for all properties was set at direct cost. So that could be closing costs, foreclosure costs. In the instance of the Kirksey Drive, it was acquisition cost.
I personally think that we're still new at this gov deals thing, and that the word is still kind of working its way out that this is an option. I can't in good conscience accept a bid that doesn't make the taxpayers in this county whole.
That sounds good to me.
Mr. Manager, these two properties on Kirksey Drive, it was fairly recent, it sounds like. How did we acquire those and for what reason?
So before my time, 2021, my understanding is they were owned by the school system. They abut the school county garage. And when the county was envisioning building an animal shelter, where the current construction project is, anticipated potentially needing the additional road frontage or the additional land. There was, I think, discussions of potentially a walking trail for the animals. And so now we've built this building, and I think we've made the determination that it's surplus property. But and I would also tell you that the total price did not distinguish between parcel, but it was $45,000. So we split that between the two.
I personally would agree with Commissioner Burns at this point anyway. Maybe, maybe try to relist it and maybe we can all get a little, get the word out locally and kind of, spend a little time looking at these particular properties and see if we can't get what we've got in them back out.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to decline the high bids received for REID number 12638 Rocky Ford Street in the amount of $3,250 and REID number 38040 Kirksey Drive in the amount of $15,201 and REID number, that's hard to say, tongue twister, 38041 Kirksey Drive in the amount of $17,000 and to direct staff to repost the properties for sale with the reserve amounts as currently listed.
All right, gentlemen, you heard the motion. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Brian. Brings us to item number 4, tax collection report, ending January 31, 2026. We'll hear from our tax administrator, Mr. Bridges. Good evening, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the tax collections report, July 1, 2025 through January 31, 2026. Current year taxes, actuals to date is $54,701,014. That's 90% of the budgeted amount to collect, with a remaining balance to collect of $5,794,857. Discounts through that same period of time was $346,429. Delinquent taxes for that period of time collected to date is $549,995. That is 79% of the budgeted amount, with a remaining balance to collect of $150,005. Interest and fees for that same period is collected year to date is $250,211. That is 76% of the budget amount, with a balance to collect of $78,789. Levy, year to date, the property tax is $56,122. Current year collected is $51,616,676. That's 92% of the levy, with a balance remaining to collect of $4,359,446. Motor vehicles collected year-to-date is $3,546,490, being 65% of the budget amount, with a balance to collect of $1,910,367. Fire tax collected year-to-date is $6,023,879. That is 93% of the budget amount, with a balance to collect of $484,411. Any questions?
All right, thank you, John. Any questions on this item? Seeing here none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the tax release and refund report as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Stroud, all those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right, thanks, John. This brings us to, is it all you had, John? No?
Yeah, motion on second. Yeah. Let me redo that. I'm sorry. Motion to accept the tax collection report as presented on item number 4 there.
Okay. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Okay, carry on, John.
Thank you, Brian.
For the refund and release report, the report amount for the month of January is $8,496.99. Of that rebuild amount was $1,558.29, with a net release of $6,938.70. There were no refunds, and there were no vehicle adjustments over $100.
All right, thank you, John. Any questions on tax release refund? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the tax release and refund report as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Now, thank you, John. All right, now this brings us to item number 6 that was added. Gentlemen, this resolution, I'll let Mr. Manager give a brief discussion on this, or a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a simple resolution that authorizes the sale of library books that are surplus from our library at a negotiated price of $1 to the Library Foundation, who will use that to generate revenue via public book sale. And as you all know, they support operations of our library as well as many other public purposes. So just seeking authorization from this board to declare those surplus and then engage in a private sale at a negotiated price of $1.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any questions on this item? Seeing here none, I'll entertain a motion on resolution number 2026-04.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-04.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right, gentlemen, this brings us to reports and comments tonight. I'll give several courtesy reminders. February the 19th, elected officials reception at the Comma at 4 o'clock. Invite you to participate in that. I believe that item is, I think Chamber of Commerce putting that on. Is that correct? Yes. February the 20th, Emergency Services Headquarters ribbon cutting down on Highway 18. We're looking forward to that. We'd invite folks in the public as well as others to join us for that ribbon cutting on Friday of this week. Early voting ends on February 28th. To remind you to cast your vote, or actually then the primary is actually on March the 3rd, primary election day. We encourage you to vote early or vote on election day during our primaries. March the 5th, the Board of Commissioners Budget and Strategic Planning Workshop will begin at 9 o'clock at Western Piedmont Community College in the Helmick Conference Room. Gentlemen, be reminded of that as well. March 14th, Lake James Annual Cleanup begins at 8:30 at the Paddy's Creek State Park. And I would again remind our youth groups, any of those who would be interested in leading in our Pledge of Allegiance at our meetings here in our boardroom, please sign up to help us with that. Also, would gladly invite religious folks to come and offer our invocation as well. And you can sign up with the clerk to help us with that. Remind from our animal services folks, spay and neuter your pets, foster or adopt pets, take care of your trash as you're coming and going from the landfill. Keep it on your truck and not on the highway. With that, we'll move on to, well, just before we do that, we'll start down with our attorney. Anything from you tonight, Mr. Attorney?
Nothing to report, Mr.
Thank you. Mr. Trout?
Absolutely. I just want to remind everybody about America 250. Get your swag, get your flags. Man, we got exciting things ahead of us here, man. I'm telling you what, y'all hang on.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Trout. Mr. Burns?
I just want to say to Alan Glines before he leaves here tonight that it's been an absolute pleasure working with you. I think you and I first crossed paths actually before I was commissioner. I was blessed to be able to chair the comprehensive economic development strategy for our region, and you were an integral part of that committee. During that time, I earned great respect for you, and I just want to thank you for everything you've done for the county. I know that every circumstance that has arisen since I've been a county commissioner, I would send an inquiry your way, and it was no time it was handled. I just want to say I appreciate that very much. Also want to say that the Burns family is eagerly awaiting the arrival of Stratton Scott Burns.
All right.
Could go any day. We're super excited about that. So just a couple other quick notes to mention. As Executive Director Anthony Starrs stated earlier, I have been sworn in as chairman of the Policy Board for the Western Piedmont Council of Governments. And this past weekend, I was sworn into my third term as a member of the Board of Directors for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. It is an absolute pleasure to serve all of you and the citizens of this county, and I thank everyone for the opportunity.
That's awesome, Randy. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Mr. Manager?
I'll just follow every one of your leads, and today's not Alan's last day, so we don't have to bid him farewell completely today. But I'd be remiss not to acknowledge my respect and how much I've learned and enjoyed working with him. And I like to remind people, just because you're retiring doesn't mean that we'll never see you again. So look forward to seeing you as we move forward, and thank you for everything you've done for our team.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Vice Chair?
I'll echo what these other gentlemen said. Mr. Glines, I appreciate you, what you've done. Best wishes to you.
Mr. Berry?
Alan, I was just getting to know you.
Yeah.
Man, I wish you the very, very best. You're a great guy and hard worker and a good leader. Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Well, since we're on that theme, congratulations, Alan. And I don't know about this moratorium on retirements. I vote no.
We're still working on that, Madam Clerk. So don't get your hopes real high just yet. So, yeah, I too, Alan, wish you the very best. Thank you for what you've done for our county and our team. Appreciate all your work while you've been here with us. I don't have any other comments tonight, so with that, gentlemen, I'll turn it over to Madam Clerk for vacancy announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen of the audience. We have the following opportunities for citizens to be engaged in county boards and committees: the Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, Burke County Public Health Advisory Board, Hickory Regional Planning Commission, Drexel Planning Board, ETJ members and alternate, Partners Health Management's Human Rights Committee, Council on Aging, Library Board of Trustees for the Hildebrand resident. We just filled the Opioid Advisory Committee seats, Local Emergency Planning Committee, and the Burke Senior Center Advisory Council.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And as always, I would encourage our citizens to consider giving of your time and talents to help us on these many boards and commissions where there are lots of work to be done. And we would certainly encourage you to participate where you feel called to do so. With that, gentlemen, we have no need for closed session tonight, and the item we've all been ready for now, adjournment, item number 14. I'll entertain a motion.
I guess I'm the one that wants to go home. Motion to adjourn.
All right, all those in favor signify by the uplifted hand, 5-0. Madam Clerk, we're adjourned.